welcome back to another entry of the Land Girl Diaries, where I'm basically documenting my garden changes and learning how to garden along the way while teaching you. Today, after designing my garden, I'm starting to tackle the weeds. Now, there is weeds everywhere in my garden, so I thought, why not teach you about weeds and help me identify weeds and work out what I'm going to replace in this garden, because I want to start with a clean slate, use what I have of course, but also understand and remove any unwanted plants. So weeds can be defined as an unwanted plant, a plant where you may not actually want it, but also it is commonly referred, and more specifically referred to, usually rapidly growing intensive type of plants that can invade and destroy the natural environment. So I will be showing you a couple of those plants that are in my yard, which actually are on the declared weed list, so they'll definitely be going because they are not good. And I'll also be looking at alternative herbicides to kill the weeds, because often herbicides and pesticides actually do have quite a large environmental footprint. We just don't even realize it. And also, some weeds can build resistance to that chemical, such as Roundup, which is glyphosate, which is quite a common chemical used to kill grass and those sorts of weeds and those woody weeds. Whereas some grasses have actually adapted to be quite resistant to it. So I'm going to do some trial and error to work out what can I use naturally to get rid of those weeds. So let's get started. Let's get into a game of what's a weed and not a weed. Let's go. Okay, let's go on an adventure into the jungle. Yes, the jungle. I want to show you this plant. So first up, what do we got? That thing there, can you see that? That is actually a silky oak seedling come from the neighbour's tree. And that is, to me, a weed, because I don't want it there, and I don't want a tree growing so close to my house. So that's one already I've identified. This little guy, he kind of looks like a lily pilly, like those ones in the back there. This guy is called a Mickey Mouse plant. It is actually on the identified weed list of Brisbane Council. So if you want to know what's a weed, often most local councils have a register of what's a weed and not. And you can put a photo into reverse Google image, get the name of it, populate into those registers and see if it's actually a weed. Because it's really good to identify, well, can I keep it or should I remove it? Next up, is this a weed or not a weed? This thing here is called a yucca tree, and they grow to 10 meters tall. I do not know why some people put them in the garden. I don't know if they just pop up somewhere. As you can see, this one is out of control and it needs a good cutting. So it will be getting reduced inside most definitely, because it can be quite destructive to fences. So that is definitely partially a weed in my garden. Is this a weed? Well, it's grass, so technically no, it's not actually a weed, but it's in the wrong area and it's overtaken all my pavers. So this is going to be the area for my experimental design of alternative herbicides to kill it, because I have some research that you can use all sorts of different things. So let's see what I can use as alternatives to get rid of this grass, other than manpower and physically pulling the weeds up. So I did some research and I found out you can use hot water as a solution to kill some weeds, or a mixture of water and vinegar and some soap. So I tried it out on this particular part of grass that I have, but to be honest, I'm really impatient and I didn't really see much result after a couple of days. So I was like, you know what, manual labor. Is this a weed? Well, it's actually a camp floral, which I think is a native tree. So obviously the birds have deposited it here. And it's in an area that I do not want, because currently I have yuccas, aloe, and there are some sad geraniums hiding. So that will definitely be getting removed so the geraniums can breathe. So that will be going. Maybe I'll plant it elsewhere, or, you know what, pot it up and sell it maybe to fund my garden. That one is definitely a weed too. Okay, it's not budging. Backup is required for this one.
Next, here we have a classic example of a weed where it takes over and actually suffocates the plants. So this one is on the declared weed list, and I'll be pulling it out so that it's no longer suffocating my plants and destroying what's underneath. So this is a really great classic example of what weeds can do and why they're actually quite annoying, and you have to get rid of them and control them.
Lastly, there's been some big talks, a lot of talks in the garden and nursery industry about certain plants that we associate with cottage, as cotton we use regularly in cottage gardens, or just generally that sell at Bunnings and other nurseries. Such as Agathopanthus, they're actually classified as a weed because they can be quite invasive, but we know them as a lovely ornamental flower plant to have in our cottage gardens and in our gardens in general. So it's kind of an interesting topic when you start getting into it and going, well, is that a weed? Is that not a weed? Because often some of the plants that are weeds, such as jacarandas, are actually an introduced species, and they kind of are classified as a weed. But we know them, we celebrate them, we love them as a tree. So it's a really interesting debate and topic to get into, but I hope you learned a little bit more about weeds today, and also some alternative ways to actually remove your weeds naturally as such. So weeds are slowly getting out of control. Next stage, we'll start planting. I'm really excited to actually start putting my garden plan into fruition. So I'm really excited. So stay tuned for the next episode of the Land Girl Diaries. Entry closed.